Well, we have a little time because we wanted to keep time on this one because I have an off script for you, Dirk, that is a bit involved. So let me unspool this for you a little bit.
Time to drink my coffee then. Okay.
Drink your coffee, Dirk. Relax. Spread out. I have fun. 2 pages here, Dirk.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So we talked earlier in the show about the gig economy. Mm-hmm. I talked about Keith Bevan's article with regard to metrology, the need for workforce and metrology. We're going to be on a future show coming up talking about internal auditing and the need for training internal auditors and the like. Right. And all these things, gigs, mentorships, apprenticeships, STEM education, personnel certifications. I mean, ASQ has it as well.
Sure, yep.
We've seen that. Certified quality engineer, Master Six Sigma Black Belt. These people earn a lot more money, so these things are really valuable. So the question really is, kind of, are we in a moment here? I mean, because there's a lot of other strands outside of the industry that are feeding into this idea of the rising minimum wage, the universal basic income, the future of work, automation. I mean, there's a lot of strands that are combining here right now in this moment, I think, that are putting pressure on one very irreducible element, which is that people need money. You need to make a certain amount of money in your life to have the things that you want. And it seems to me that all these things are, even the recent tax cuts that were made, all these things are squeezing, it seems to me, the individual at the expense of the larger organizations, whether those be nations or corporations. There is more money being generated in the world economy now than ever has been before, but it's increasingly in so many smaller hands, including many corporations, that I think about my parents where, my dad could count on 8, 10, 12% bump each year, in a raise or just doing better, right? I mean, these days, if you have a house, the housing market's doing well. If you have an IRA or 401k, it's doing well right now. Can't count on those things to always do well. Right. If you're close to retirement and you're doing well right now, it could go down 20% in the next year or two. So the question is, I know there's a lot of setup, I'm sorry there, but the question is all these things. I mean, are we forgetting about the individuals within that the individuals have needs, have financial needs? And are we, as industry companies, individual companies, doing enough to, should they be mindful of the individuals and the individual success financially as part of that? Is it fair to expect that there should be that expectation? I know it's a big issue, but I want to hear you go.
Well, I mean, I don't think, in my experience, and I've mostly worked for good companies, okay? In my experience, I think most companies want to do right by their employees, but sometimes they have, shareholders who don't want to see big, across the board, increases in employees, which are really expensive. Sure. I think companies want to do well by employees, and I think there is also, maybe this is a good and a bad thing, a realization that money, at least for employees, isn't the end all be all. It's kind of the other stuff that just kind of like what we were talking about earlier, how are you meeting some of my personal needs as well? So I'm not, I guess I'm dancing around the question. Yes, it's important for companies to pay their employees a good wage and to keep increasing those wages that they can. I don't think, and again, I'm trying not to be a Pollyanna, I don't think companies are deliberately going, I'm not going to pay my employees anything. I'm going to work their fingers to the bone. I don't think they're doing that. I mean, maybe there's some, but I mean, in general, I think companies want to do well by their employees and they pay them what they can based on what the economics and so forth are.
Well, take the gig economy, for instance. I mean, they're offloading a lot of the entrenched benefits and saying, well, we're going to break up your work and just pay you for what you're doing, maybe, which is, again, makes great sense for the companies, but for the employees, I'm not saying that people are lazy and they're not working all 40 hours or whatever it is each day, but you lose some of the supports, of the benefits of having a steady gig. And if we're moving in that direction, 43% by 2020, and who knows, by 2030, 50, 60%, who knows? Automation comes in as well, puts pressure on that also. I mean, you know, UBI, I think, is a big part of this. I mean, I think UBI needs to be
universal basic income.
I think is, or maybe universal supplemental income is going to need to be. There's going to need to be a tax, I think, at some point levied on these mega companies that very quickly are going to be trillion-dollar companies. Some of them, Apple and some of these companies, are going to be worth so much money that if we don't force them to pay their employees better, or force them to lower the price of the goods they're selling to us, in some way, the consumers have to get them benefit, have to get more benefit, I think. And I could be a Pollyanna from the other side too much as well.
Well, I think Petriglieri touches on this in his gig economy stuff, is he mentions in some other articles as well as in this one that people are leaving companies, as I said, because why should I be here? I can do the same thing on my own and have some more diversity. So you have people leaving companies, not because of the pay necessarily, although sometimes people think they can make more on their own as a contractor than they can as an employee. It's not always true, but sometimes it's true. So they're leaving because of that, or they're leaving because they want the freedom or so forth. Then you have the other people who are just creative types. They've never wanted to work for anybody, and they never have, so they're in the gig economy. He's saying that, yes, you probably need to look at paying them more, paying them what they're worth, because a lot of, or even just paying them and not stiffing them. But what's more important is the other stuff. I mean, that seems to be what he's saying, and we see this in other surveys, you know, employee engagement surveys and so forth. It's not just, I mean, money's important, but it's not all there is.
I gotta interrupt you though, because I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying. There's some people that are intellectual and knowledge workers that have skills that are transferable and are in demand, and they can chart their own course. There's a ton of people in this country that have to live to work,
do the grind.
You know, they're not work to live, I should say. I mean, you know, they or both. I mean, you know, so they don't have that choice. I mean, you've got kids, you've got expenses, you've got a house, you've got a rent, whatever you've got, and you don't have the choice. You don't necessarily love what you're doing, but you got to do it, and you need those 40 hours.
Well, sure. I mean, and this is something I just don't know about, but I'd be interested in knowing whether the wage increases, the average wage increase for the average, you know, hourly employee, salaried employee over time, whether that has kept pace with corporate profits. You know, because I mean, if corporate profits have been going like this, then it would and wages are going like that, then you would say, well, they're tracking. But if corporate profits have been going like this and wages have been going like this, then we've got a problem.
My sense of it is as close to that. I have to do the research and look at it more closely, and we're kind of running out of time here. But this to me is a really important issue. I think
so your question, your point is that, are we doing enough for the working stiff?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's always been the question.
Well, sure.
I mean, it's been the question for
sure, but I mean, within all these, but now we have all these different pieces of this that are emerging just recently, and I think that, again, to me, too much of this is focused on putting money in the pockets of these. I don't want to get up on soapbox.
Those
socialists,
damn corporations.
But I mean, you know,
money grubbers.
There really are. My sense of it is that there's been a lot of benefit accrued to wealthy individuals and large corporations.
That hasn't been passed along.
It hasn't been passed along. I mean, the idea of the supply side economy, the trickle down economy, I don't think really has been proven to work that well.
Okay.
We're going to see. I mean, the administration we have in place now really believes in that. So we're going to see. I am dubious. I'm worried about the health of the economy based on the individuals and millions of people, hundreds of millions of people that rely on that paycheck each week. And I think that's important to remember that.
Yep.
So, all right.